Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video. My sister Lisa, female 30, and I, female 36, have always had some tension between us. It mainly stems from her being the typical spoiled younger sibling because our parents always coddled her and took her side. Even worse, she was always really intrusive and used to try and make friends with my friends, and we had to begrudgingly let her hang out with us if we wanted to hang out at all. Lisa never bothered making friends her age, and I even heard her saying that she got free mentorship from having older friends. I mean, I wouldn't mind this, but she used to get weirdly possessive each time one of my friends also became her friend. I know I already sound like an AH, but the scale at which Lisa does this is insane. She never used to hang out with people from her age group, and a consequence of that is that a lot of her friends, even now, are closer to me than to her. All of this has always been mildly annoying for me, but has never blown into a full scale thing. That is to say, I've had small fights with her about her behavior on and off, but nothing that was irreparable damage between us. I think the closest I ever got to that was when Lisa wanted to come with me to my first ever house party. I was 16 and she was 10. You can imagine my horror at the idea of showing up with a 10-year-old to a party with a bunch of my friends. At that age, I even convinced my parents that it would be a bad idea since there could be rowdy behavior or alcohol. They were cool with me going, though. However, Lisa snuck out of the house that day and ended up at the party, 3 blocks away from our home. I had to leave early and drive her back, and I shouted at her and called her a leech. It wasn't my best moment, I'll admit. So nowadays, whenever Lisa wants to pop by or do a group thing with our mutual friends, of which there are many, I always attend and treat it healthily. Recently, she's even begun to break out of her shell and made a few new friends, by which I mean that they aren't from my year in school, my office, or anywhere else. The best thing? She even started dating one of these guys, Josh, and they've gotten engaged. This has been one of the most positive times I've had with Lisa, and I could tell that she was genuinely excited. Her 30th is also coming up, and I've gotten involved in the planning for her big day. It was going to be a lovely party at a family farm, and it was looking like a super cute day. However, I couldn't help but roll my eyes when I looked at the guest list she'd come up with. Literally, all the guests she had invited were either common family members or people I knew or had known well in my past. I gently asked her why she wasn't inviting the friends she has made more recently, and she said that she wants an intimate experience with people she has known for a while. First off, how is 100 freaking people intimate? And secondly, Lisa still doesn't get that most of these people are not that invested in her life. They know her as OP's sister, and that's it. I've always wanted her to form her own identity, but she's making it tougher and tougher with this kind of stuff. But I shoved all this down because at the end of the day, it is her birthday, and I needed to let her have her moment. I thought that was the end of it, and we moved on with planning. All in all, it would end up being a nice birthday, but things were about to get much worse. You know how I said that Lisa was possessive about our common friends? That ended up rearing its ugly head. I visited Lisa along with a common friend, Becky, to brainstorm ideas for her party. I admit during this time, Becky and I used a few inside jokes and talked about shared experiences that Lisa wasn't a part of. But it was only for a moment, not like we spent an hour reminiscing, but we just mentioned the stuff we had done in the middle of planning. It was still all about Lisa and her party, but I could tell that we'd done something wrong. Lisa's face was sullen, and I quickly maneuvered away from being too buddy-buddy with Becky. After the visit ended, though, Lisa pulled me aside and drops this bomb. "Oh, P, I've been noticing how you're acting with everyone, and it's getting to me." "What do you mean, Lisa?" You know what I mean. You keep talking to everyone about stuff I'm not involved in, even my friends. First off, they're not your friends. They're our mutual friends. And secondly, I always include you in stuff. You can't be a part of every conversation, and you have to respect that. Come on, it's your birthday. That was the conversation we had. Well, along these lines. She didn't respond with anything but a non-committal after I called her out, and ended up being distant with me for the whole trip. Then, after I got back home, I got a text from her saying that she doesn't feel comfortable having me at the party and that I need to stop being a jerky narcissist. She was also really hurtful in the text about the fact that I'm single. By choice, long-term relationships aren't my cup of tea, and rubbed in the fact that she was getting married in my face. It's crazy that this girl had the audacity to call me a narcissist, despite pouting and throwing tantrums as a 30-year-old when she's not involved in every conversation under the sun. I called my parents and asked them if she had told them about it. Mom, being as non-confrontational as ever, said that at the end of the day it was Lisa's decision, and I needed to respect her feelings. Dad, too, was basically too worried to put his foot down and asked me to bear with it, saying that she'll get over it later. I was still livid, though. Why the hell would I spend hours of my time planning Lisa's birthday and devoting energy to it just to have her make me out to be some kind of friend-hogging monster? I wasn't going to put up with it. I had to rant to someone, and against my better instincts, I told Becky about it. That was a bad idea because if Becky knows, then every mutual friend of ours knows. And as I said, most people are closer to me than to Lisa. I had no intention of making something crazy happen by ranting to Becky, but it snowballed way out of proportion, leading to our entire group of friends confronting Lisa about it. I wasn't there for this intervention of sorts, but from what I heard, Lisa went ham on everyone and demanded that everyone show up and show her some damn respect. She went on a long rant about how terrible I had been to her as a person, and even said, "If you care more about OP than me, then don't bother showing up." I knew this was going to spread like wildfire, and our relatives probably already knew about the situation. So I felt really bad for letting it get so far out of control. I texted Lisa saying that I was sorry for letting other people know about what she said and that I wouldn't come to the wedding if that was what she wanted. She didn't respond. I decided that this wasn't worth my time at this point and was just getting overwhelmed by how stupid the whole situation was. I packed my bags, left the farm, and went back to my house. On the day of her birthday, I had gone out for a date, and halfway through, my phone started blowing up. My parents texted me saying that nobody had shown up, including our relatives. Becky texted me saying Lisa should have learned her lesson, and that everyone was planning on cutting her off after the way she behaved at the intervention. Our relatives who didn't show up texted as well. They said they had come up with some excuse not to show up, but in reality, were doing it to support me. I had mixed feelings about this, to be honest, and I didn't know how Lisa would react to all of this. I ended up cutting my date short and heading home, and lo and behold, I get a call from Lisa. She starts by screaming abuses at me and says I had conspired against her to ruin her day. I get that she was disappointed, but this was an extreme reaction. I told her that I was sorry her birthday had been derailed, but it was more her fault, and through her behavior at her intervention, that this ended up happening. I didn't ask for the whole situation to get out of hand, but I didn't do anything to stop it either. So Reddit, AITA for letting everyone know about what Lisa demanded? Update 1. Josh, the poor guy, had been left completely out of the loop in all of this and ended up texting me as a peacemaker. He said we should talk it out as sisters and maybe come to a resolution. Becky also called me and asked if we should talk to Lisa because she has been left all alone after the wedding, and her only support system is her new friends who aren't tuned in to why this issue is a big deal in the first place. Update 2. I took up Josh on his offer and went to visit Lisa with Becky by my side. Both of us told her how toxic her behavior was and how it had been going on for ages, and she told us that it was uncalled for to escalate the issue to the point where her entire day was ruined. Both of us agreed that we acted immaturely and decided to move forwards from this. Lisa still works on rectifying herself and becoming less possessive about our common friends. Update 3. Things have gone well since we had that talk. It's been a few months since Lisa's wedding, and the whole space between me and Lisa is really calm now. We talk with mutual respect, and she has accepted that she can't be involved in everything that involves our familiar friends. She's also started working harder at making new friends and deepening those bonds, so that is also going well. I hope we can move on from this because Lisa is stepping up. NTA, because you didn't rant to Becky with any malicious intent. Your friend group is supporting you, and if Lisa was so sure that her perspective was right, she wouldn't be mad that everyone knew what she had asked you to do. I won't lie, it's funny how the biggest narcissists end up calling out other people for the same thing. NTA, Lisa's behavior was way out of line. I think she needed a reality check, and while it's sad that her birthday was ruined, it was high time. Next story. I visited home for the holidays and was chatting with my college-age cousin, and her dad asked me if I had any career advice because I studied computer engineering and she's in CS. I said yeah and gave this advice. Read up on labor rights and employment law before you start your first full-time job. Know your rights and know the right resources to go to if, or more realistically, when your employers violate them. When you consider a job offer, background check the company too. Ask your network or cold message recent ex-employees on LinkedIn to ask how the company was as an employer. Find out their revenue sources. Look up any legal action taken by or against them. Learn soft skills too. I've progressed way more in my career from boldly asking for coffee chats or lunches with leadership than trying to prove yourself through grinding. At any job, when it comes time for performance reviews, privately review your employer too. See if they have reached your expectations, and if not, start putting out feelers. I said all that pretty briefly, and her dad, my uncle, was like, but there's value in hard work too. And I was like, honestly, the pitfall I see most young people in my field making is undervaluing their labor at the start of their careers. Past a certain point, working harder just brings in more money for your employer. On salary, you won't be rewarded for harder work. I'd honestly suggest looking for an employer with a good work-life balance and setting a firm start and stop time for your day. My uncle pulled her away, which was honestly kind of weird because she's an adult. But he came over to me saying I was entitled and shit like that. And I said that honestly, I think more women in STEM need to embrace that energy. Like a lot of companies don't value making their workplace equitable and safe, despite that being something every employee is entitled to. Going into this job without a lot of intrinsic self-worth is just going to be a bad time. And honestly, he should be proud of his daughter. She's intelligent and capable, has succeeded at several top-notch internships, and should recognize her worth and really understand what pay and benefits and working conditions her education entitles her to. Because if anyone's underselling her with that hustle culture BS, it's him. That stuff gets you screwed over and stuck in a dead-end job. He got really mad at me and started insulting me with shit that didn't even make sense, like me being political and too sensitive and gay, which, damn, I didn't know fricking men is a prerequisite for a job. Like the whole point of what I was saying is that you never want to take a job at that kind of place. I talked to my cousin later, and she said she was curious about those labor rights resources I mentioned. So Reddit? AITA for giving my college-age cousin the advice I gave? NTA, you gave your opinion from your experience, and your uncle was really out of line with his reaction. You've told her about your experience in your field, which is different from your uncle's. She'll get an idea when she actually starts with a company whether firm start and stop time works in that culture. They might have a more flexible, get the job done culture that means people don't stick to strict hours. Your advice was helpful, and if your uncle was going to react like that and even insult you, he shouldn't have asked in the first place. She'll probably contact you privately when she wants more input. NTA, he asks you for advice, then calls you entitled and gay when you give advice? This story doesn't make any sense. Either something is left out or he just has some issues he needs to work through. Next story. Over the summer, me, 39, female, my husband, 42, male, and my son, 7, male, took a trip to Myrtle Beach. We had a great time at the beach and we stopped at a nearby gift shop to pick up some souvenirs. My son spotted a toy ball with cute strawberry characters on it. He absolutely loved it and begged me to buy it for him. I told him that maybe Santa would get it for him for Christmas. I then purchased the ball and put it away for Christmas. 4 months go by. Not a week goes by that my son doesn't mention the ball. Quite frankly, I've never seen him so excited about something before. I was super excited for him to open it on Christmas morning. So Christmas rolls around and my husband and I give my son his gifts. He opens the ball and he's ecstatic. My husband, on the other hand, was less than thrilled. He knew all about the ball, but apparently he had never taken a close look at it. He tells me he's concerned that our son would want what was clearly a toy for girls. I was shocked and tried to explain that it was just a toy ball and it didn't really matter who it was marketed for. He drops the conversation and I thought the issue was settled. So fast forward a week. The ball suddenly goes missing from our house. My son is distraught and I have no idea where it went. My husband then reveals to me privately that he had given the ball to his brother to give to his younger niece and purchased him a different one, Spider-Man, which, granted, he loves. I was obviously livid. I reminded him of our son's love for the ball and how excited he was to get it. I told him that what he did was incredibly insensitive and thoughtless. My husband argues that he did it for the greater good and that he was protecting our son from bullying. I replied that he was being ridiculous and that our son wouldn't be bullied for having a toy that is traditionally viewed as being for girls. To be honest, it didn't even look like a girl's toy. So here's where I may have taken things a bit too far. I told my son, the reason why the ball is gone is because your dad gave it away to someone else without asking. My husband was immediately angry with me and told me that I'm trying to turn our son against him and that I should have left it alone. He's dead set on the fact I'm in the wrong here, but I feel like I was just telling the truth and that it needed to be said. Looking back, maybe it was a bit wrong of me to tell my son the truth, as that's going to hurt him and strain their relationship. But at the same time, I don't think it's right for my husband to interfere with our son's Christmas gift without consulting either of us first. Perhaps I could have handled the situation better by not telling our son. AITA? NTA, your husband is a real piece of work. How do you think he's going to react if your son turns out to be gay or transgender? He is the one that crossed the united front line and made a unilateral decision, not you. He has no right to be angry at you and needs therapy to get over the idea that a ball with strawberries is a threat to his manhood. I hate to say it. No, I don't. But you're living with someone who clearly does not support the LGBTQ plus community. In his mind, most likely, he believes this will turn your son gay and or trans. This was a heavy belief I saw in my own family when it came to me and a few of my cousins. If someone is being hateful towards your son's interest in a toy he clearly was happy about, just because of a preconceived notion he has is someone you wish to stay around, then by all means go for it. What you did today, though, will continually happen and will not stop. Your son will learn to hide who he is, whether it be gay or straight, trans or cis, And he will learn that you are a silent partner in his father's antics, if you could call them that, because you're choosing to stay and fight an uphill battle that neither you nor your son will win. He will not change his mind on this. All this to say NTA, but you need to take a closer look at who your husband is. He's a man in his early 40s projecting his own insecurities on a 7-year-old child, and that's never okay, especially as his parent. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.